Hi Stampers, welcome. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Welcome to today's live. I'm excited to share today's kind of advanced card with you. It was something I saw another demo do. I think she's in Germany. It was in a foreign language. And I watched this video and she had it in metric. And so I converted it to imperial. And then even when I had it finished, it's a little too big for an envelope, but it is pretty awesome. Opens up like this. So how cool is that? If you're really looking to like wow somebody, this is the card to do it. And I've even played around with it a little, and I have just a paper version, and I'll tell you the measurements I used, but I made it to where it will fit in an envelope. This is just like way littler. So I'm excited to share it with you. I'm using some brand new designer series paper that's coming out tomorrow. Can you believe we are like less than 12 hours away from the new catalog and all those new online exclusives? I am so excited. There is lots and lots and lots of cool stuff, and don't just look at the catalog because like half of it's online. So go check out the website as well as that awesome catalog that you should have already received in the mail. I want to say congratulations to, looks like Jeanne and Joe. I'm not sure, it doesn't have a name. That's the tag that she has on YouTube. She is our winner on Monday's card, which was the floating strips. Let's see. So she's going to get that card in the mail. She won it as the prize for liking and sharing the video and then letting me know she did that. So let's get going to today's card. I think you're going to love it. Okay, so here is our card. Okay, and this new designer paper is Florals in Bloom. I have to grab that because it is so gorgeous. It's got all these beautiful flowers on one side and then something kind of generic on the back, which means you can use it for the focal point of your cards, or you can flip it over and use the subtle side for more of a backdrop. Or what I had done was combined two of them to use to complement one another on our card for today. There we go. And then that one. See, look at all those pretty papers. So gorgeous. And that last one flips over to green stripes. But this is just one of the many designer series papers I have going on in my paper share. You can order just for like another 24 hours because I'm going to need to shut that down and get that ordered. I've already ordered what I could on my pre-order, but I've got more coming. And I'm going to cut it all up into 6x6 and 3x6 pieces so that I have swatch books, which are like a little sampling of 3x6 of all of the designer series paper. So you can see it in person with all the information on the back, or I have them in 6x6 and it also will include all the information. So that can be found on my website. Let's see, here we go, that one. So if you want to hop in on that, you need to do that really soon because like I said, I got to get that ordered and get it all cut up so I can turn around and mail it back out to you guys. Okay, so this is the stamp set I'm using. It's the Happy Hibiscus, and it has been out for a little while. It's a hybrid embossing folder, and what that means is that it has this die that's going to fit into the embossing folder. So it goes on the side with the logo, and then you kind of just wiggle it around until it kind of clicks into place. It kind of finds its home and then it stays kind of stationary and won't move. And then you run it through the machine and it cuts out, here we go, this. So let me show you how this goes together. Okay, so you can run it through without the die cut and you're just going to get this dry embossed background that would be solid. Or if you use it with the die, when you pull it out, it's going to just have those pieces already embossed and cut out and ready to go. So I'm excited about that one. For our base for this card, we're going to need kind of a bigger piece. This is 5.5 by 11. Okay, and this is in Pool Party. I got that from looking at the back of the designer series paper. I used one of the colors out of the paper. I have 2 pieces of Pool Party. They're 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. Okay, they're going to be these pieces on the front. These 2 pieces here. So the whole thing ends up being longer than 11. Look at that. This whole thing is 16 inches between these 2, and it's bigger than that. So it's a pretty big card. Okay, then I have for this piece here, that is this right here, 3.5 by 3.5, and I have 2 of those. And then inside, we have this piece here, the fresh freesia. This is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. It's going to go in the middle. And then 3.5 by 3.5 is going to go over the top of that. Okay, in these corners, I have these little fresh freesia pieces, and they are 2.5 by 2.5. There's 2 of those. And then 2 that are 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. So they're going to fit inside of those. And then I have 4 pieces of designer series paper. I'm using 2 different patterns, and these are 2.5 by 2.5. And then we're going to cut them diagonally, and then that's what's going to go in all these little corners here. So all those little triangles are going to be these squares cut in half. And then we need 1 more piece. Just realized I don't have it out here. And this piece is going to go on the front of the card. I have my notes. I'm going to bring in my trimmer. And I need this to be 2.5 inches by 8 inches. So I know since it's 12, I can take off 4, and we're going to end up with 8. So we have that 2.5 by 8. Now what I want to do is I want to mark this at 2 3/4 on both sides. So I don't know if you can see, I've got it right here and then right there. And now I just want to cut between those 2 little marks. So I'm putting them right in that track. And then slicing that. I hope I went the right direction. Yes, I did. Okay. I wanted to say, because if I had cut it the other way, I'm wondering if I would have ended up with the wrong angle, but maybe not because it's mirrored. Anyway, we need those 2 pieces for the front. And then I have, as you saw, I pre-cut some of those flowers, and I've got some leaves all die cut over here. Oh, this is what I was thinking. We need to take and cut these diagonally, as I was saying. So we're going to lay these in the track. I'm going to put the points right in the track. And because I don't want to smash the points, what I'm going to do is drop this with the blade in the middle of the paper and then slide up and slide down. If I had started up here and came this way, there's a chance I could smash up those points right there, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep those as neat as possible. So there's those. And then we need these ones. Okay, come on. All right. Now we're going to keep our trimmer out because now we're going to do our base. Okay, and this is the only complicated part, and I'm hoping I'm breaking it down easy enough where it's not going to be too complicated for you. But I want to mark this, score it right down the middle. So we're going to score this on the 5.5 side at 2 3/4. Okay, so there's our halfway. Then we're going to go 2 3/4 from either end, and we're going to go ahead and score that. Okay, and then we're going to line this up at 5.5 because now what I'm trying to do is find the halfway of the long 11-inch side. Then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to make a mark there and there. Okay, now we need to do some scoring, and you can do it in your trimmer. I wanted to try to make it a little easier for you to see. So I was using a ruler and either a stylus or a bone folder, something that you can do some scoring with. Knew it was over there in the drawer. This is the part of the take your pick tool that I always forget is in there because I use this end quite a bit, but this pops out and then this one it goes right in. And again, it's got the large ball for doing cardstock and the small one for doing, designer series paper is the large one, cardstock is the little one, because you don't want to do too much pressure and rip through your designer series paper. But I want to go from that little halfway mark up there down to this corner down here. And I want to start like right in the corner. So I'm actually going to put my stylus in the corner, and then I'm going to move my ruler up to it and then go this way. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing this way. I'm going to try to start with this in the corner, and then I'm going to go up to this other point. Okay, so all I've done is I've made a V right there. Can you see that? So this was at the 2 3/4. This was at 2 3/4. So right, so that's making each corner 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. Then I went halfway, and I want to make sure that I'm in the corner. So I'm making sure that that is folded in the point, and then I want to bring this up, and I want to make it touch up here. Okay, that's how I'm going to make sure that this is even, but then I'm only going to score that part. Okay, I didn't want to do this part. That's going to be something else. And then I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to fold this over. And once again, I want to take this point and match it up with that point. And then we're just doing the top. Okay. So I've just got that. Now what I want to do is I want to flip that around and do that here. So since this arrow is pointing down, I want this one to point up. So we're going to go the other direction, and I'm going to start with, again, my stylus right in this corner. And then I'm going to butt my ruler up to it, find that upper corner, and go straight up. Okay, so right from that corner, right to this point. And then I'm going to go from that corner once again up to that mark over there. Okay, now basically I just want to fold that in. But the reason that I fold this over and make it touch is that's going to make me as even as possible and as square as possible. Okay, because when it folds up, I want it to be nice and neat. Okay, so now I have the point at the top and the point at the bottom. So essentially, it's going to do that. Okay, so does anybody have any questions at this point? I want to make sure everybody is good and clear to what we're doing right here. Just going back and looking for questions. I'm not seeing any, so hopefully you guys are clear. We just basically have the arrow pointing down from the top and then up from the bottom. And then they're going to kind of fold in like a milk carton. You know, the paper cartons we used to have back in the day. And then they're going to meet up in the middle. Okay, now this is going to make more sense if we start laying down some of our designer series paper. So let's start with this outside. And what I want to do is put this one right here. And then this one right here. And I need to do that before I put the other pieces on the front. Remember there were some squares I was going to adhere? We're going to adhere this right over the top, but we need this paper to go down first. Okay. So I'm going to use liquid glue so that I have some wiggle time. You don't need to use much, but you do want to try to get it sort of close to the edge. And then I'm going to wiggle around and see that I get kind of an even border. Okay, then we're going to flip this over and do the same thing on the other side. I used to do online stamp camps with this gal from Canada, and she always did it like that. She did it in dots rather than squeezing it out in lines. And as she was doing it, she would tell herself, dot, 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 not a lot, dot, 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 not a lot. It was kind of funny, but it made sense to her because it made sure that she was not using too much glue, because too much glue is going to make this paper warp, and we don't want to do that. Okay, now I'm going to come in with the fresh freesia, and I'm basically looking that I want this point to match up with those points, the little side marks over here. And then I want it to be the same distance between the score lines. Okay, so once I've got it on point, then I want the same distance between this score line and that one, which really isn't much because it's going to be hidden on the inside. Okay. So wiggling and making sure the same distance from here and there, just centered all in there, right? Now we have these two corners that don't have the diagonal line in them. So they're going to get the other two fresh freesia squares. And we're going to do some stamping. I just like to get all the little pieces out of my way that I can before I lose them. And this gets a little bit bigger of a border, so you could do this at 2 3/8 instead of 2 1/2. And then do that at, let's see, 2 5/8, and this would be 2 3/8. But I know you guys don't like the 1/8, so I kind of took those out of there. Just trying to make it easier. Okay, so there we are that far. And like I said, we have these little triangle pieces, and I want to alternate them. Okay, so let's see. Let's put this one here and this one here. Isn't this beautiful paper? Okay. Looks like I haven't lost anybody yet, so hopefully that stays true. Like I said, the gal who uploaded it, it's Jane Ulrich, I believe her name is. She posts some stuff on this Facebook group I'm in, and every time I see her stuff, I just think it's amazing. But she's in another country, and so her videos are in a foreign language. So I just kind of watch it a few times and make notes of what everything is in metric, and then I convert it over to inches. That's where I get a lot of my folds, is I watch videos from another country, because usually, you know, people don't like to watch something in a language that's not native to them or that they don't speak. So I thought, if I can get it down, then I can share it with you guys in English and in imperial measurements. So if you see one of those out there and you're, oh, darn, it's in a foreign language I don't understand, send it my way. I'd love to try and figure it out. It's kind of like a puzzle. And I've been doing card making enough that usually I can figure it out. I've been making cards since, oh geez, I started with Stampin' Up! In 1997, so it's been a very long time. I wish I had stayed a demo the whole time, but I kind of took off while the kids were in school and went out and got one of those real world jobs. I don't recommend. This is much more fun. So I came back to this when we became empty nesters. And we've moved states 3 times since I signed up this go-round. So over the last 12 years, we've moved from New Mexico to California, and then from California to Idaho. So I have stamping friends in all of those states, and then that made me kind of go online. And then once I was online, I have friends all over the place now. So very thankful for online features and being able to use the internet and YouTube and all that to share with you guys. Okay, so there is pretty much our base. But like I said, I wanted to have this one fold in from the side. So I'm going to kind of line it up on this side. And I kind of want it to cover up my designer series paper on that edge. And I want to be sure that I am inside my score line over here, so it can close and that's going to be inside. So basically I need my glue on the other side of this line up in here. Okay, so once again, I'm lining up with that edge of the designer series paper, pulling it into my card frame. I'm kind of matching to the fresh freesia underneath, ensuring that that's going to close. Then once I have that, I'm going to come back to this side, and now I want my top piece right in here. Okay. Then I have my designer series paper that's going to go right over the top of that. This could go over a little further. Eek. Okay, I didn't quite meet my corner over here, so be careful with that. You want to make sure that you're there. I don't want to pull too hard because I don't want this to rip. So I will fix that after. I'll grab some undo and I will adjust that so that these corners meet up. Y'all have undo, right? I love that stuff. It's an adhesive remover that will help you pull stuff off and not ruin your paper while you're at it. And you can even remove photos. And so I have that recommended on my online, like in my website, and then on my Amazon store as well. So if you want to go find that adhesive remover that works wonders, go ahead and check that out. But this is what you're looking for. Fabulous stuff. But, you know, I want to make sure that my points are, you know, lined up there. It looks like I missed this one a little. I've got it too much shoved that way. But I'll be able to fix that. And it's minor. That's me being persnickety. Okay, now you could have, I should have shown you how I do that. Okay, I could have taken these mini magnets and put a glue dot right on the back of one of them. Let's see. I don't usually like to do this on camera, but come on. Okay. See, because now I need it to dry. Mute this. It's alcohol based, so it does dry really quickly. But when you're on camera, you need to move even quicker. So I would put that mini magnet under there. Okay, and then I'm going to take the second magnet. And these are on my online Amazon store as well. So go back and get that link if you want to get these mini magnets. Should have done it before I put the designer series paper on, because that's what will hide them from being seen. Sorry, I realized I pulled back the wrong corner, but I should have done this when I didn't have my designer series paper down yet on these pieces. And then I've got that one underneath the designer series paper here. I'm going to put this other one over there. Okay, and then we're going to close this up and put some adhesive there. Okay, so now those mini magnets are buried underneath. So that's one option of getting this thing to close. I think Jane had used a belly band on hers, and on this one I used Velcro dots. And so they're the little hook and loop circles. So the hook and loop circles, the Velcro, and the mini magnets are on that Amazon link. So choose which way you like, or make a belly band. That works too. But now we're ready to stamp. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in my white pieces, and I decided since these are going to be in the corners, I'm going to make those, I mean, they could have been just decorative and I could have put my 1 sentiment in the middle, but I did it with the sentiment here and here so I could write in the middle. But, you know, you can do that however you wish. And again, using the colors from the designer series paper, I'm using Blueberry Bushel. I had mounted my stamp by lining it up on one of the grid lines and then pressing down onto it with the block, keeping with the grid lines, so that would be nice and straight. Then we're going to use the paper on a grid line. And just all of those keeping an eye on grid lines is going to hopefully make sure that we are straight across and not at an angle. Okay, and then I've got my little Simply chamois, which I have cut into 4 pieces, so they're a little easier for me to maneuver. And then I have Pool Party. And Fresh Freesia. I'm using the little flower. And then I just wanted to put some flowers like in the corners. And I'm just flipping the paper around, making it more comfortable for my hand to stamp. Because it doesn't matter how I stamp it, I'm just going to adhere it to the card the right way, right? And then I chose to use a little bit of Old Olive to add a little bit of leaf to the corner. Now I don't want much. I just want a little bit peeking out from the sides. And you can choose to do this however you wish. And it doesn't need to have the greenery. So if you like it without, then leave it off. It also would look even better if I had taken the time to use our masking paper and stamp one of the flowers onto the masking paper and then cut it out with paper snips and place that masking paper over the top of the existing flower. Then I could really do a good job with my leaves and stamp right over the top of the flower so they really do look like they're coming out from underneath. But I didn't do that this time. I should have. Okay, then I've got my other ones. So I'm just going to do some bigger flowers, or bigger spreads of flowers over here. So this is where you get to like play around and be fun. And again, as I said, the masking paper would make this look way better. Because then you could really place the leaves where they belong. Oops. And I did that again. I did this last time, didn't I? I think the last video we did, I put the wrong color ink in there. Can you see? I'm just going to dab that out of there. And then I'm going to use my re-inker and put a little bit of that back in. And then I want to rub that with the back of a spoon just to kind of spread it around and make it even on there. But there we go. All fixed. Check over here, make sure there's no new questions. Yes, there are many amazing demos online overseas. Do you all follow Alyssa Tilsner? She is amazing with the Stampin' blends. She's been taking professional coloring classes and, using Copics and pencils and, you know, all the stuff that the artists are using. And then she comes back and adapts it to our Stampin' blends and our watercolor markers. And she does these online classes teaching us to use our Stampin' blends in a very professional way. It is amazing what she can do with our Stampin' blends. I highly recommend you check out her stuff if you want to learn the best coloring. That's who I would suggest. I believe she's just alyssatilsner.com, but she's based out of Australia. Oh, there goes my thing again. Darn. Okay, let's see. I'm going to try this, see if I can get it to work. I don't know why it goes sideways. And the hard part now is always, to me, is always getting it to line up again. So I'm not sideways. Okay. So there is our magnetic closure to our Hexagon twisted card. And now I'm going to bring in some of our flowers that I said we had used the hybrid embossing folder to get all cut out. And I'm just going to use kind of the same layout because I kind of sat here and played around with the flowers trying to make bouquets that, you know, looked pretty. So definitely do that with yours. Play around, lay them on top of each other, move them around, try different colors, see what you like. It's kind of fun to do a little flower decorating. But since I'd already kind of figured it out, I'm going to do it the same. And then I thought they kind of looked boring. Now, what I could have done is I could have brushed it with a little bit of sponge dauber with some ink. I could have done some blending brushes. I could have added a little bit of ink to the inside of the folder before I did my dry embossing. Did you know you could do that if you take your sponge dauber? And see, I was going to be cutting this way. So this was going to be the tops of my flowers. So I would put a little bit of ink in here using the sponge dauber. Then you put your paper in there, do this, close it, and run it through. And your ink's going to be on your flowers. But I didn't think ahead and do that. So what I chose to do instead was give it just a little bit of Winkostella. And I think it's kind of cool how it makes the pool party just a little bit darker. So it kind of looks like it went Coastal Cabana or Summer Splash. And then I just followed the center of this hibiscus and did that one up as well. So it just gives it just a little extra something. And when I did the front, actually, I didn't pop up the middle ones because I want the card to close. And I don't really want any bulk in there. But what I could do is give this one a little bit of a bump. And I could pop one or the other or both. Just where they're going to overlap. I don't want a dimensional, you know, between the two. I want all 4 dimensionals to be touching that designer series paper. Because otherwise it'd make that taller, and we don't want it taller, right? And I just ran the pool party through once and then the fresh freesia through once. And I got all 3 flowers, and then I just switched it up. You'll notice that my medium-sized flower here is the fresh freesia and the pool party's the large, and then it's the reverse in here. And I didn't quite cut out all of the leaves, but I would want to add leaves under here. So we will add some adhesive and pop those under there. And if the leaves are too big like that, feel free to cut it off and then just shove the tip of it under there so that it fits exactly where you want it. And then just put some adhesive below those and you're all ready to go. A little bit of sparkle and I think we're done. I have that out. Let's see, that's not the ones I was using. Here we go. I was using the In Color dots. Now these are the 2024 to 2026 In Colors, I believe. We've got Summer Splash, Shy Shamrock, the Peach Pie. This is Petunia Pop and Pretty in Pink. But I thought the Summer Splash was close enough that it looked kind of pool party to me. So I went ahead and used that. I'm going to use 2 different sizes up here. And we could have used the Petunia Pop. It would go very well with the fresh freesia. But there we go. There is our card. So that's the one we did today. We're going to go back to an easier one on Thursday. And I promised I would tell you what I did with this one. So this is just to get it to fit into an A2 envelope. So this is 4.5 by 9. Okay, 4.5 by 9. Then this is scored 2 1/4 and 2 1/4 and then 2 1/4. Okay. Then we found the middle of it. So half of 9 is 4.5. So we found the middle, made a mark. And then you're going to want to score where I have the black pen. Okay. So 1 coming down from the top, 1 coming down from the bottom. And then the pieces that are going to go in there, because this was 2 1/4 square, we're going to use 2 inch and then 1 3/4. Okay, 2 inch cut diagonally. The middle part, it would be 3 inches, so 3 by 3, and then 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And then the 2 pieces that would go on the outside here would be the same. They'd be that 3 inches by 3 inches. And so it would be all the same thing, just smaller. And once it's done up like this, it doesn't fit exactly this way, but if we tilt it a little bit, we can get it to fit in like that. Okay, so if you needed to shrink it to an A2, that's how I would do it. But I just thought it was so impressive the way that Jane had done it in the full size that's what I decided to share with you guys today. So I hope you love it and you give it a try. It is very awesome. And like I said, thank you to Jane Ulrich for sharing that with me in another group so that I could come back here and share it with you. So remember to like and share the video and then tell me that you like and shared the video so I can enter you into the drawing. I'd have to see how I can get that in the mail. Okay, so remember, midnight, you can order out of the new catalog. That goes live at midnight tonight. You can order everything out of the new catalog, and the new online exclusives are going to go live at that same time. So check out all of those and be sure to place your order with me. You're going to want to check that you have an online account and that you have opted in for the Stampin' Rewards, because now you're going to start earning 10% on everything that you purchase. So if you place a $200 order, you're going to get $20 in Stampin' rewards that's going to go into your account that you can choose to use on your very next order, or you can store them up for a year and then buy something big at the end. Maybe you need a new cut and emboss machine or a bundle that was a little bit out of your price range. You can save your Stampin' rewards for that and get some great stuff. So I'm excited about that. But, like I said, they shook everything up. So if you're shopping with me, make sure that you're checking for my name up in the corner, because they messed with computers and you know what those do. So thank you so much. And I will see you back here on Thursday for one of our easier cards. Thank you so much. I'll see you then. Bye.